Let's go. We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Making Conservatism Look Cool podcast. And as you can see, I have a very special guest. Been trying to get this guest on the platform for a minute now. Huge fan of her work. If you guys are not familiar, she has been on the you've heard her name as far as on in these conservative spaces for a minute now. You can catch her on Fearless with Jason Whitlock weekdays, Monday through Friday. She periodically make guest appearances. She is an author. She has her own platform. And with all that being said, with no further ado, the one, the only, Shemeka Michelle. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Thank you for having me.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Like I said, huge fan of your work. Been interested in having you on the platform for at least 2 years. But I said, you know what? Let me make sure it's the right time, and I feel like now is the right time because I love what you're doing as far as what you bring to this conservative space, and also I love what you do on Fearless with Jason Whitlock. Huge fan of Mr. Whitlock. So with all that said, with all that, how's it going on with you? How's everything going?
Everything's going pretty good. I'm loving it over there with Jason. I know a lot of people, he ruffles a lot of feathers, but I kind of like that because then he welcomes me right in because at times I can ruffle a lot of feathers. And I think it's just really nice to be in a space that is led by men. Um, and I feel safe there. And so I think that that's kind of the thing that I like the most is that I feel really safe there. It's a space led by men, and I can just be myself and be free to say what I feel is right. And it just so happens to line up.
No doubt, Shamika. Now, before whenever I have guests on my platform, I gotta ask them when their journey has started, and most people they can catch you on. Oh, let me turn that off. A lot of people can catch you on Fearless with Jason Whitlock, and they'll assume that this was you your entire life. So can we go back? When did this transition begin? Because I've read a little bit about your story, but I would love to be able to share to that with the audience in regarding to how this journey started. Because if you don't mind, because you can break that all down to us.
My journey to conservatism.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So my journey to conservatism was a mistake. Not a mistake, but it's just it was a surprise, I guess. Something that I loved to have, but I didn't know I needed, but I was
Okay.
grateful for. So it was a
Okay.
surprise. I started being online and talking online about 10, 11 years ago, I think this year. I started
Okay.
a blog because I had just been divorced and I felt like uh, I had been living a lie. Just
Okay.
always expected to, I was really in the church, be able to sing, preach, teach, dance, and my life was cracking like glass. And so I
Wow.
said, I wanted to remove the mask and just be honest and live life authentically, good, bad, or indifferent. So I started a group called Naked Girls, which was just a group of women who had vowed to live open, honest, and emotionally exposed. So we launched that in November of 2013. So
Okay.
I had a blog and I would just write my feelings and just kind of share with the world things that I was going through or things that I had been through in my life that I was at the end of the tunnel, right? And so I
Wow.
just wanted to be able to encourage other women like, hey, there is light at the end of the tunnel. But it kind of was bigger than I thought it was going to be because it wasn't just women, like men started calling themselves, because it was naked girls. We had men making up all types of names for themselves, nude
Right.
gentlemen, or because it just seemed people were ready to remove the mask and just live open, honest, and emotionally exposed. And so I would do videos online on Facebook all the time about different topics.
Okay.
And so happens I will always get censored, right? I would be thrown in Facebook jail, or I would have so many, especially Black women, mad at me. Sometimes even the
Wow.
Black community just, furious with what I had to say,
Mm.
especially feeling like, okay, kids need both the mother and the father. Or I would
Right.
tell women, you can't be a man, you can't be both the mother and the father. I would
Mm.
say things like, I don't think people should be able to be on welfare for a lifetime. I
Well, I know that
understand.
ruffles some feathers.
Yeah. But, I had no idea that those were so-called conservative thoughts. To me,
Mm.
they were just common sense. And so I continued doing that for years, getting thrown in Facebook jail, not being able to come back for 30 days. And in 2018, they finally made it to where I couldn't get on at all. The only way I could get onto my public figure page was through people that I had given access to that were administrators on the page. And I was very frustrated with that because not only did I have my public figure pages, I
Right.
had my personal Facebook page. And I'm thinking that's where my friends are, that's where my family is. And one
Right.
of my friends said, start putting your thoughts on Twitter, because I actually used to go live like 3 times a week on Facebook. So they just
Okay.
really ruined everything, I thought.
Wow.
And so my friend said, start putting your thoughts on Twitter. And I said, I don't have any followers. And she said, well, the only reason why you want to stay on Facebook is so you can know what's going on in town, gossip pretty much. Start putting your stuff on Twitter. And so I did. I started putting my videos on Twitter, just whatever was going on in the world, things that I thought. I think that year may have been the year where Kavanaugh, they were having his hearings for the Supreme Court. I think Kanye had said slavery was a choice. It was like so many things that happened. Trump was in office because,
Right.
let me back up a little bit. When Trump came out, I was with it was something I liked about him, not when he came out, but when he said he was running for
Right.
president. It was
Mm-hmm.
something that I liked about him, but I thought I was crazy because so many other people were saying, oh, we can't vote for him. He's going to take us back to slavery. He's racist. And I was like, God, but no. The more I listened, like initially I was with everybody else, like, yeah, Trump is bad. But the more I listened, I was like, God, I like him. And so when he actually won, I wasn't mad. I did not
Mm.
vote for him, but I didn't vote for Hillary either. People pick on me because I voted for Jill Stein. I knew nothing about her. I just knew,
Wow. You're
yeah,
one of the few people I know that voted for Jill Stein. Wow.
yeah. I just knew I wasn't voting for Hillary. So fast forward to him winning, I was
Okay.
so happy, but I saw people start to fall apart. And they
Mm.
had that day without a woman, the big march in Washington where they had like the
Yeah.
uh
That's my hometown, so I definitely remember
yeah, it was a
that.
mess. And so I ended up writing a blog about that, and I was
Okay.
contacted by the Wall Street Journal. I mean, like people
Wow.
were, the Final Call reached out to me, and I just is it the Wall Street Journal? Is that what it's called? But like
Wow.
people started
The
like
final
big
call. That's
pub
the Nation of Islam
yeah,
newspaper,
the
right?
Final Call did, but
Yeah.
it was a big mainstream publication. Is it
Okay.
the Wall Street Journal? Is that a name of a
I know.
publication?
Yes, that is a
Yeah.
publication.
So they
Yes.
reached out to me and they wanted to interview me because what I had written was pretty much telling these women, y'all are stupid. You look dumb out here in the streets. You have not lived an oppressed life. Get over yourself. And I guess it was strange to hear a black woman saying that. So that was 2017. And then fast forward to 2018 when I finally got kicked off Facebook, I started putting stuff on Twitter, and I was able to see the people flocking to me were mostly conservative. So initially I was thinking, oh, what do these white people want with me?
Now,
Because
let me stop you for a second. I just want to stop you for what
okay.
was your interactions with people like as far as what do they think of your views as far as like your personal relationships? How did that how did that go down?
I felt initially, because I wasn't this outright um Trump supporter. Like at the time, I didn't have any Make America Great gear or anything.
Right,
They just knew that, like, people that knew me personally knew Shemeka is going to tell you the truth. Like, she's not a liar. She's actually going to be honest. So people that knew me didn't really have an issue with it because Trump was not involved. This was just
right,
me saying what I thought was true. And so many people, even black people, loved me on Facebook. Though even though I had those that got upset with what I had to say, most black men felt like, yes, we are important. Yes, we're
right,
supposed to be in our kids' lives. Yes, women, you talk too much. No, you can't be the mother and the father. So it was so many people that agreed with me. At the time, I ended up connecting with Tommy Sotomayor. And so it was like we just vibe because I was the female Tommy on Facebook at the time.
right.
Um, but when I started putting my stuff on Twitter, I got a whole different audience. And it was at that time that I realized, oh, this is why a lot of my stuff would get taken down from Facebook, or I would get thrown in jail for 30
Right.
days because my views are conservative. I had no idea. Although I was unaffiliated, I had always voted Democrat because I
Okay.
just never really took the time to listen or to look at policies. But because of Trump, I guess that's why I vibed with him, because I was thinking he's saying what I actually believe. I just had
Okay.
no idea I had been voting wrong my entire voting life. Until I got on Twitter and saw the type of people that were coming, like agreeing with me, and I was agreeing with them, were conservative. So it was like, oh, I'm conservative. I had no idea. And I ended up, the Brandon Strock from the Walkaway campaign contacted me, and I was thinking, I didn't even know I had walked away, but I guess in values I have always been conservative, but when it came to the vote, I had walked away because once I realized that my own personal values did not line up with the left,
Right.
I had to start changing my vote. And so that's why I say it was like a surprise, because I never made a conscious decision, nor did I ever just sit down and say, I want to
Right.
look into, politics.
Right.
I always felt the same way that I feel now. I just was voting wrong.
That's interesting because you're originally from North Carolina, correct?
Yes, Durham, North
And you
Carolina.
Durham, North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is considered that's a red state if I'm not mistaken, right?
Most of the time it's red. A lot of people would think it's purple just because it's so close.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I
Durham though is
noticed.
blue. The city of Durham is very liberal.
Okay, okay. Because a lot of people, you said something that really stood out, and I wanna hear, I wanna hear your perspective on this. And you basically, and I'm pretty much just summarizing it. You mentioned how a lot of black people how they look at your skin color and they want you to pretty much associate with them based on like pigmentation and things like that. But you mentioned values, you mentioned your views. So when you have these conversations with people that share your pigmentation, people within our quote unquote black community, what is their response when you have these conversations in regarding to shared values? Because that's something that's really big. Even on Fearless with Jason Whitlock, he mentions that a lot. How are those conversations?
If there again, if it's people that know me, most of the
Right,
time they agree. So I think a lot of people are punks because they will get in the public and act like,
right,
"Oh my god, I can't believe she votes for Trump," or "I can't
right,
believe she's, siding with Republicans." They act like they're about to die. But some of these people I've known my entire life. Like we went to church together, we went to
right,
school together. I know for a fact they don't believe two men can be married or that a man can become a woman. Like they believe the same thing I believe, but in the
yeah,
public, they are such punks and they feel like they
right,
can't actually say that because they're scared of being canceled, scared of being ostracized, scared of being talked about. So
right,
many people say, I don't care what people think about me. Lies. Because if
right,
you didn't, you would be able to stand 10 toes down in what you believe and not slide in my DMs talking about, girl, I'm so proud of you.
yeah,
I agree with what you be saying. Well, why
yeah,
you can't be open and honest about that? And so, a lot of people, if they know me, have no issue with me. And if they
right,
do, they say it behind my back. None of them say it to my face. To my face, it's always encouragement. To my
yeah,
face, it's always, you know, keep going, or I'm proud of you, or I see you, girl, online. I see what you're doing.
yeah, yeah,
It's only the people that don't know me that go with the whole, um, all skin folk ain't kin folk,
right,
or Uncle Tom or Auntie Tom, or you're a
right,
coon. It's these people that have no idea. People in my city would never say she doesn't like black people because
right,
they know I went to all black schools. I lived in a black neighborhood, went to a black church.
right,
Everything is black, black, black. When I hang out around here, I'm with black people. My friends are black. They would never say that. So when people are looking at people, coming to ridicule me for a post or whatever, it's always people that don't know me. There has
right,
never once been someone that knows me that got online or up under any my comments to
right,
say she hates black people.
right.
It is not true.
It's funny that because I go on, when I follow you, of course, on Twitter. I follow you on Instagram, and I love the way that you're able to articulate your points and with this certain personality, this certain wit. Where does that come from? Like that's the reason, why I have you on my platform, because I feel that you have a very unique quality. You're able to convey your message in a way that is where most people can relate to. But where does that come from?
I'm going to give a shout out to my city. Big up Durham and Durham City Schools, because I just feel like that's kind of what was instilled in us. That's
Okay,
how we were taught. It's surprising to me when I see people being such punks because we weren't raised like that.
no
We were
doubt.
raised to actually be vocal about what we believe, not be afraid, not back
Hmm.
down. And when it comes to me sometimes firing back at people,
Right.
um you had to be able to do
Yeah.
that to survive. Like,
You you
if you
you
either
quick with
sat,
it.
yeah,
You
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 sat
quick
in the
with
corner
it.
and didn't communicate with people, or if you did, you had to be able to hold your own, because
Yeah.
that was just the thing. We call it
Yeah.
scolding. Back in the old days, they would say playing the dozens, but where I'm from, it was scolding. You had to be
Okay.
able to scold, or you were going to get picked on.
Hmm.
And my school, my high school, the band was a big thing. It was like you either did sports or you were in the band, and the
Okay.
band was, because it was all black, we were playing Heavy D and Criss Cross and
Right.
Make It Last Forever in our band in high school. It was the You grew up wanting to be
Right.
in my high school band. So it was like it was popular, and if you were with the popular crowd, you had to be able to hold your own and not be sitting around crying because somebody
Right.
said something that hurt your feelings. You had to have a comeback. So a lot of times I have this quick comeback simply because of the people I grew up with. Like, you had to. It was, you couldn't be around project
Yeah.
kids and not.
That's the thing I love about you, Shamika, because you're so straightforward. You're so straight to the point. Is really no filter with you, but the way that it comes across to like men like myself, men that I grew up around. It doesn't offend me. So when I hear this is the type of the things that you say is the type of things that I heard in conversations growing up as a kid. So when I hear you talk about how effeminate that a lot of men are today and how masculine, it doesn't bother me. So what's the old saying? A hit dog will holler.
Right.
But one thing I love about you, like you said, you're very quick with it. So with that being said, like talk about this. How did you link with Jason? Because Jason gets a lot of backlash within the black community, and I'm going to be honest. I'm gonna come out and say it. I was one of the most critical people of Jason Whitlock about 5, 6 years ago. Couldn't stand him. And I realized the reason I could not stand him was because I myself, like most black people, we consume black content. The things that we consume, it shapes our mentality. I never had a problem with the things that he was actually saying, but I subscribe to a lot of the things that black people were saying about him. So I would listen to what they say, and then I would shape and form my opinions instead of actually listening to what he says. So with that being said, what was your knowledge of Jason Whitlock prior to you becoming a part of the Fearless Army, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, I had no real knowledge of him. He looked familiar, probably because I was an avid Oprah Winfrey watcher. Like, I loved Oprah Winfrey,
Right.
and so he had been on Oprah before. And so I knew he looked familiar, but I didn't know him. So, and I
Okay.
probably maybe saw him on some of his TV shows, maybe Fox Sports, just in
Right.
passing, maybe at the gym. I don't know, but
Right.
I did not know who he was. But he wanted a female for the show, for a female perspective. And from my understanding, Delano told him about me because I like, because of the way I would talk and the things that I would tweet. Delano and I became like online friends, and
Okay. Shout out to
the
Delano.
yeah, so Delano had also been on the podcast that I used to do with Charles Love and Wilford Riley. I was doing the Cut the Bull podcast. And so Delano recommended me just because he felt like, from the things that I'm seeing or that I know about her, she lines up with what we believe on this show. And so Jason reached out to me, and the rest is history.
That's interesting because the way you guys connect on the show, it would seem as if you guys known each other for a very long time, and for you to say that you never really, because I've known, because I'm a sports fan, I've known of him for at least maybe 20 years. But when you
Wow.
see, now that you're in the space, you're in the limelight as far as like these conservative spaces, you're in debates. What is the what is the response as far as like people realizing like Shemeka is here to stay. She has something to say, and she's going to say it the way that she feels that it needs to be said, and that's just what it is. So what at the end of the day, what is your purpose? What do you feel like your purpose in this space? I'm gonna ask that. What's
I think my purpose in this space is to make women comfortable with being women. I think society has made women hate what God put us on this earth for, which was to be helpmeets to men.
right?
And society has made so many women feel like being a mom is just this burden. Being a wife is this huge burden. Is less than. I have dreams bigger than the kitchen. I have dreams bigger than being a mom. But for me, the most important thing that I've ever done was to have children. I wish I had more kids. Like, of course, when they were small, I felt like I had 100. Like, oh my God, these
Right.
three are is about to kill me.
Right. Right.
But now that they are older, I'm
Yeah.
like, gosh, I would have had more children. But it was hard for me because I got with my ex-husband when I was 22 years old. So I was really young, and I don't feel like I was as strong as I am now to really, like, I always knew I wanted to be a housewife, but I
Right.
think there were times that I cracked under the weight of, girl, I could not be at home. Girl, I would have to
Feminism.
have my own money. Girl, I can't believe you depending on a man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there were times I felt like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm a failure, or I need to get a job.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Cause that's what's that's what's constantly told to you as a
yes.
not even
And
as
so
a black woman, as a woman in general.
God, yes. And so I think that my purpose is looking at my kids and the fruit of actually being there with them and available for them and seeing how well they're doing. It's like, you know what? This thing works. And not only
Right.
does it work, but you actually can be fulfilled in that and find enjoyment in that. And it's not a burden. It is
Right.
actually what God created us to do, and it's natural. This is nature. This is the way it's
Right.
supposed to be. So I feel like I'm here to actually just encourage women and to teach even the younger women, to train them in the way that they should go,
Right.
and to just be a mentor to some of these young women, because society would actually, people will say, "Oh, you hate women." No, y'all hate women because you don't even want to allow them to be who God created them to
Right.
be. So I'm not a misogynist. You are, because you don't even
Right.
want them to be a woman. We got all these
Yeah.
men coming into female spaces.
Exactly.
You're telling a woman, don't have kids. This whole the black maternal health crisis. My great grandmother had 9 kids. Back in the, back way back, they would drop those babies in the field and keep on working. Now
Keep
all of
on
a
working.
sudden, with all the
Yeah.
medical advances that we have, we want to get
Yeah.
black women to feel like it's this, they're taking this huge risk
Yeah.
in having
Yeah.
children, and don't have these kids, just kill them. That's
Yeah.
actually what we are presenting women with now. So I just feel like my job is to just stand 10 toes down with the
Yeah.
truth, with what we know worked back in the day, what we're here for, what we
Yeah.
were created for. That's my purpose here. It was something else I was going to say. I felt like you asked a question in two parts, but I'm sure we'll get to it, or I'll remember it. Yeah.
No, one of the things, like I said, that stands out about you is that, when people come at you, like, you always, you're not only are you're quick on your feet, but you always have a sound response to them as far as like logic, and I feel that it's a waste of time for people to even come at you, because you're well versed in the things that you have researched. You're not just some person that's just going off the cuff. And what I've also noticed, that like people like yourself, like people like even myself, they forget that we're from the same neighborhoods and communities that they're from.
Right.
So for some reason, they think that because you have this perspective, and this is what I really want to get your views on. Why do you think that they think because you have conservative viewpoints that you don't understand the plight of the black community? Like, what is that all about?
I think there's this false idea that every conservative is Carlton. And that's why, I got in trouble a couple of years ago when did the whole Carlton versus Will, and both of them were conservative. Like, we need both Carltons and Wills. I
Right.
think the idea is that every conservative is Carlton. Every black male conservative go to Great Clips. Don't go to a black barbershop. Don't know what an
Yeah.
edge up is or a fade. That's the idea. You think every black conservative is a county school. And I'm just like, no, y'all done ran up on a city school, girl. And I was raised with black people. And so people that know me know, okay, Shemeka can't be ran off or shut up easily. These new people that are just finding out about me, so many times they come to me thinking they're going to have me somewhere in a corner crying and feeling like I don't want to do this anymore.
Sadly
If I
mistaken.
don't, yeah, if I don't say anything, number one, I'm probably busy. I'm
Right.
doing something else. But
Right.
so many times I drop it like it's hot and go on about my business, because one thing I know for sure is I'm here to stay. I've
Right.
popped up every time social media has taken my account or thrown me in
Yeah.
jail. I
Yeah.
couldn't go live on Instagram for like a year. I'm
Yeah.
going to pop up somewhere because this is what I feel like I have been put on this earth to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that until God say it's over with, or I want you
Right.
to do something else.
Mm.
So a lot of people try and come at me, but I just can't be phased. It's like, if God be for me, who can be against me? Y'all can
Amen.
get on this app and say all this crazy stuff and pop your gums and think I'm gonna break or I'm gonna
Right.
cry. If this stuff, if anything was gonna take me out, I'd be gone already. The things that
Mm.
I've seen, I've tried to shoot somebody. My house has been shot up with me
Yeah, I
in
heard
it.
about
I've been
that.
robbed at gunpoint. Like, I'm made for this.
Right.
Prior to even getting into this, God
Right.
equipped me with
No
what I
doubt.
needed to be a little tweak. My house done been shot up with me on the inside. You think you gonna
Wow.
hurt my feelings with a
Yeah.
tweak? You
Yeah.
wasting your time. You just as dumb as whatever I'm talking about for you to think that you gonna back me down. Like,
Yeah.
come on, that's crazy.
You know what I find very interesting. They say people like me and people like you we're grifters, and I'm thinking to myself, how can we be grifters?
Mm,
Everybody knows that it's more money in liberal talking spaces.
right.
So if we were grifters, we would be on the side of the left because that's where the money is at. Like, not saying that there's no money here on the conservative side, but people, when you're a conservative, you actually do this. You have to do this because you love it. You have to do this
Hmm.
because this is something that you believe in, because the backlash that you receive, especially as a black male, as a black woman conservative,
Hmm.
it's enormous. So
Right.
if you're not, like you just said, if you're not built for it, this is not the space for you. And as far as like monetary gain, you know, you can the road less traveled will
Right.
be the liberal side, because this
Yes.
trying to get it over here. So expound on that. What's your thoughts on when you hear the term, oh, she's a grifter, and things like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And just like the whole, oh, you're a sellout. Well, sellout to who? Sell out for what? Because the checks are not what y'all think it is, you know. And let me tell you, if you write me one now, I'm going to cash it. Let me be
Best
clear.
believe.
But everything that I'm saying, I say it because I believe it and I really
Right.
stand for it. And you're right. We could get a whole lot more money. These people are out here speaking to tell you you're oppressed for $30,000.
Yes.
Speaking, for 30, 45
Yeah.
minutes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I this is so crazy. So we had a debate like a year and a half ago in DC, and it was the
I
right
saw
versus
that.
the left. Yes.
I saw that was amazing. You killed that guy. I don't know who that guy who tried to get simple with you,
Oh God.
but you put.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you put that. I'm like over it. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah,
It,
but do you
it was
know
great though. But go ahead.
they paid the left more than they paid the people on the right?
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yes. And
I
so
didn't
I'm
know
like,
that.
what we do, we really do it because we want to. Our hearts are
Exactly.
in it. We want y'all to have better lives. We believe there's a better way. They got more money being on the left
Oh
because
yes,
that's just the way it is. And
this is the way it
so
is. when
When
you look at
people
mainstream
say
media,
grifters,
even when you look at, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead,
oh
Shamik. I'm
no, no,
sorry.
no. So I'm just agreeing with you. When people say grifters, I'm like, shut up. If you only knew, it's the
Yeah.
ones telling y'all you are oppressed and acting like, dogs are better trained than y'all are, that's really getting all the money, because
Right.
y'all sit there and let them tell you that you can't pass standardized tests, you can't make honors courses, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't. But you will take your dog into PetSmart and want a
Right.
trainer to teach your dog to roll over, to fetch, to sit, so that dog can be trained. But black people can't pass standardized
Yeah.
tests. Y'all let these people tell y'all anything for $30,000,
Exactly.
but you think we're the grifters. Please give
Yeah.
me a break.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. It's almost as if these people, these charlatans, I call them. They come and tell you what you should have and what you should be fighting for, but then you look at them, and these guys are multimillionaires. They have
Hmm.
huge backing, and I'm thinking to myself, well, how come you did it?
Right.
How were you able to do it?
Yes.
So it's almost like, so I'm sorry, us feeble-minded Negroes, we're unless we hit the lottery or something like that, there's no way that we can be in a position that's going to be conducive to ourselves, because we're just not intelligent enough, and we need people like you to lead us. And when I hear the Dr. Umars, when I hear the Roland Martins and the Rashard Richies and these clowns, I'm gonna call them
Hmm.
clowns, because again, that's what these people are. And I hear them try to backlash people like yourself, people like Jason Whitlock, and I'm like, people don't understand. Jason Whitlock was on mainstream media. He
Right.
didn't like, if he really wanted, if he was really after that bag, he could have
Hmm.
just stayed on Fox Sports.
Right.
He could
Yes.
have easily stayed. So it's not like, you know when I listen to his testimony, as when he talks about how he left Hollywood and came over to Nashville, that's a real testimony, because again, the things that you have to deal with when you look at guys like Stephen A. Smith and see how they have to placate
Yes.
and acquiesce to the left, and they have to straddle the fence in regarding to the things that they speak. I have to commend people like yourself, people like Jason, because it takes a lot of integrity to do that, because that there's a bigger reward, on this earth by capitulating to the left.
Hmm.
But when you on this side, you're going to be rewarded by God. And
Right.
that's that's the foundation. I love that you guys lean into your faith, and you lead into that foundation. So I salute you, Shemeka. I love what you're doing, and I can't say it enough. It's just an honor to see people, because we need spaces like this. They have their spaces in mainstream
Yeah,
media.
they do.
They dominate.
Everywhere.
They're everywhere. We have so again. Where is the spaces for conservatives to come and speak? From our biblical worldview, and it's like, when you look at it, us compared to them, we're like a little dot compared, as far as like the spaces where we can come. So what's your thoughts on that? Like, how the conservative spaces are being attacked, even though when you look around, most of the spaces are, especially political spaces, they're liberal, they're left leaning.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I like about Elon. Although I feel like my account was shadow banned under the old regime and it just has not bounced back from when they actually kicked me off of Twitter, and I was gone for months and I had to complained to the Better Business Bureau because there was really no reason except that I voted for Trump and, was putting up a lot of stuff from speaking engagements that I had that year. There was no real reason for them to kick me off. So by the time I guess they saw she's putting in a real effort to get her account back, we'll give her account, but we just maybe people won't see it. And they took like 20,000 of my followers. It was a mess. And so Elon, if you hear this or someone that knows Elon, take
Yeah,
those restraints off my account. Let me be
yeah,
great.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but I'm so grateful that we at least have a space and Rumble, that even Truth Social, where people can actually have something to say. The only issue about Truth is that it's mostly conservatives there. I like the fact that there were so many people on the left, or that Twitter had kind of become this liberal space, so
Right.
that you get to interact. It's not like you're in an echo chamber and
Yeah,
just,
yeah. Cause that's
you
not
know,
that's not healthy either.
yeah, preaching to the
Yeah,
choir. I don't like that.
yeah,
So I'm grateful that we have that, because otherwise it would just be us talking to each other, and I don't feel like we could actually spread the message. And that's one of the things that I don't like about mainstream media, because you have shows like The View and The Talk and The Real.
the Reed
Um,
Report is that what's that Joey Reed show?
oh God, yeah. The
I
Readout
hate to
or whatever
even I hate
whatever
to
she
even
has
say
now.
her say the name of her show, but go
Yes,
ahead.
it's frustrating, because
Yeah,
then our people only hear one side, or
one side.
people only hear one side. And that's why you have black people that feel like they are constantly oppressed, and you have white people apologizing. What are you apologizing for? What did you do? Did you whip somebody? Did you have somebody in chains last week and we didn't know about it? Why are you apologizing for something that you never participated in?
Yeah, I'm sick
Just
of it.
like I'm not getting ready to walk around tiptoeing, or like I'm on eggshells around white people when I want a slave. That was my ancestors. I say all the time, roll up on me the wrong way and you gonna get this work, because
Exactly,
I was not a slave, and this is my country. This is my land. So I don't feel
exactly,
like I'm a visitor here, or you're not gonna hear me walking around saying they don't even want us here. Who cares? I had ancestors 6, 7, 8 generations ago born right here on this land.
right,
This is my home. I want
exactly.
America to be great. So when they say, when was America ever great? I'm going to go back to my lifetime. America was great when I could walk into my neighbor's house and the door wasn't locked, because there
Mm,
was no need for alarms and ring
yeah,
cameras and bolting your door shut, because we actually had values. We had
exactly.
family values, and I could go to her house and get a ice cream sandwich,
A
and it was
cup of
no
sugar,
big deal.
man.
America was great when I could actually play outside without having to worry about being shot. America was great when I could walk home from school and it was fun and there was no care and there was no worry. We
Amen.
didn't even have cell phones, but our parents knew, for the most part, we're going to be fine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
when America was great.
yeah, yeah.
So don't play me with this whole, they always want to take us back to slavery. I didn't live in slavery. I didn't live through
Exactly.
Jim Crow.
Jim
You
Crow.
know,
Yeah.
when America was great for me, when our young kids weren't being shot in the street and it was normal. That's when
Yeah.
America was great.
Yeah.
So I don't like the mainstream media, because it continues to push this idea like we still need to be singing "We Shall Overcome," and
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
notice we have overcame a lot.
No. Yeah.
That we should not be sitting around singing the same old, or telling the same old story that our grandparents did.
Yeah.
Like my grandma, she was a nurse. She's 90 years old. She has stories about white people saying, I don't want that N word working on me or doing anything for me. That's not my story.
That's not my story. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my kids should not be walking around angry with what my grandma had to deal with. You got
Exactly.
$1,000 phone at your fingertips to find out whatever you want to find out, call your friends,
Supercomputer. I
hang out.
call them
Yeah.
supercomputers.
Don't you dare act like you got the
Yeah.
same life as my grandma or my great grandma or my great great. Don't, please. And the problem is we got so many people walking around here like this was their story. It's annoying. Like, you got a good life. Stop playing.
Yeah. I call it, and I know you're familiar with this term, but I call it trauma bonding. You know what
Yes.
what I've noticed now, it's part of the black experience. Like this trauma bonding is part of our cultural identity. Like you're not black. Most black people look at you. You're not black unless you're able to relate to this quote unquote struggle that we are supposed to be experiencing in America in 2024. The past hell, past 15 years, past 20 years, and you ask most black people what are their interactions with with ethnicities outside of black, they cannot tell you that these relationships were hostile. But
Right.
what I've learned and what I've noticed, and I know you have seen this as well, Shemeka, by just talking to the blacks. This is what the blacks like to do. In the event that somebody disagrees with them, you're racist.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't pander to my every whim, to everything that I say, you're racist. And that's what I noticed with a lot of people, even myself. I've only been a conservative probably maybe 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I think back to when I was in the military, and I had to deal with certain NCOs, that higher ranking officers, and I would look at some of the things that they didn't like, and because I consume black content, and I listen to Kathy Hughes on Radio One, and I listen to Charlemagne the God, and just different black. Just let's just be honest. Black content tells you that you're oppressed
Mm-hmm.
24/7. So they shape my views. They shape my mentality. We have, as black people, we have been primed with this type of rhetoric for the past 50 years by these damn cultural Marxists. So when
Mm-hmm.
we hear this stuff and we see a white person that disagree, we attach that to what they're saying, and we try to make it correlate. When you now I look back as a man in my 40s, I'm like, that wasn't racist. They just disagreed with me. That's all it was.
Exactly. Right. I would say to a white person, keep your long nose out of black business. So
Wow.
I was ascribed to that too, and I'm gonna tell you what made me think twice. Like my daughter did this project at school, and you had to like create some type of planet, and so she made a planet for black people, and
Oh, oh
um
God.
yeah,
Oh my.
so this is way before
Tupac's
Wakanda.
oh, cause I'm thinking about Tupac had a song Ghetto Heaven, is Gangsta's Paradise. I forgot, but he had a, the song, because Shamika, you know music, but you know the
Yeah,
song I'm talking about. But
yeah,
go
so
ahead.
this was well
Thug
before
Mansion.
that.
I'm sorry, Thug Mansion. That was the name of it.
Okay. Yes,
Thug
this
Mansion.
was well before, we saw Wakanda and whatever. My daughter, elementary school, made this planet, the planet. I think she painted it red, black, and green, but it was
Okay.
only for black people. She even took one of her black Barbies and cut all the hair off, because most of the time the hair is silky,
Right.
and we put like our hair, because we all wear our hair natural,
Right.
had an afro, made it so it looked like she was holding up her fist. I mean, we went in, right? And so there was this idea that we were oppressed
Right.
because we were black.
Right.
And I had to stop and think about that and say, we live in a $300,000 house. We have two Mercedes and a Cadillac in the driveway.
Mm.
There's a little white girl at the school, don't have anything close to that.
Would love to trade places.
Would love to trade places. And I'm like, maybe we not oppressed. Maybe we have done something all right to get,
Yeah.
to where we are.
We're
My
doing okay.
oldest daughter had her own. We had a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath house with a theater. I don't think we're oppressed, and so
Yeah.
it just kind of took me to stop and say, look around and be logical.
Yeah.
like some of the stuff that you think and you say just doesn't make any sense. It's
Not
really
at all.
emotionally driven. You're saying this because somebody told you to say it,
Yeah.
whether it was church or whatever. You just met new friends that feel
Yeah.
like, hey, you're oppressed, and it's like, I was a stay-at-home wife. I wasn't
Yeah.
oppressed.
Yeah.
I'm fine, and
Exactly.
but it's crazy how we'll just, we've kind of been trained to just pick up that narrative and run with
Yeah.
it when if we just stop to think, it's not really true.
You know what? I'm so glad you touched on those things. And earlier you mentioned that debate, the walk. I don't want to mess it up. The what is it called? The
Walk away.
walk away. I remember last year watching you shred the left, and it was a woman on there. I believe she was pregnant, and when
Yes.
she was when she was mentioning when she had to pinpoint the racism, the so-called quote unquote imaginary systemic racism that exists, I noticed you made her always have to. I'm not going to say you made her, but you pointed out that every time she tried to do that, she had to reach back 50, 60 years ago. And that
Mhm.
stood out to me because when I hear all of this systemic oppression, systemic racism, they're always having to pull back 50, 60 years ago because if you ask them in 2024, what are black people denied, they can never give you an answer. They can
Right.
never tell you black people are denied this, black people are denied that. So if that's the case, what is the purpose of the NAACP? What is the purpose of the Congressional Black Caucus? What is the purpose of platforms like Rolling? Like, what is the purpose of keep continuing to tell black people that they are oppressed when you don't see these things? You only you quote unquote frame these things are framed in a way that make you think that they're
Right.
realistic based on disparities. And what
Mm.
I mean by that, so you can look at Delta Airlines or United Airlines. Only 4% or 5% of the pilots are black. But then if you ask most black people, how many black people you know that wanted to be pilots?
Right.
So how could you can you honestly say that's racist? Because if that's racist and you need diversity, equity, inclusion for things like that, well, I need 50% of the NBA to be white. I
Exactly.
need 50% of the NFL to be white. I need 50% of the rappers that come into mainstream media. I need them to be white. So
Right.
what I call cap on all of it. So what's your take on what I just said? What's your how do you view it?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think a lot is just people's perceptions and
Right,
it's skewed because I hear people say, when they do talk about racism and they say the same term, systemic racism, and you say, well, explain, like, are there laws put in place that actually, like, go into detail? Most of them cannot, but you'll hear them say, I'm not treated fairly as a black man. Well, what happened? Well, they looked at me wrong. What how do you know they just didn't find you attractive? How do you know it wasn't something about you that they, were looking at and, oh my
yeah,
god, look at those shoes, they're so clean.
right,
I mean,
right,
you just don't even know. But if you walk around thinking that that's how every white person sees you, number one, I do feel like you will attract those type of experiences to yourself, but that's a you problem. That's not necessarily that they are looking at you crazy.
exactly,
You're thinking that,
yeah,
and so I don't even walk out my house wondering um what white people are thinking about me, or if I encounter a white person,
right.
are they going to be discriminatory against me? Are they not going to like my
Doesn't cross my
natural
mind.
hair? It never crosses my mind at all. I think I'm Shamika Michelle, I'm going where I want to go,
Yeah,
and either you're going to love me or you don't. But I ain't even thinking about, like, I
yeah,
don't care. I'm going to
yeah,
be who I am. And if there are certain laws I do feel like we got way too many of them, but they're here. Unless you're fighting to get rid of them, you got to follow them. I'm going to follow the laws and I'm just going to live my
Yeah.
life. But I don't wake up every day thinking about white people or thinking about the fact that I'm a black woman. Woe
Yeah.
is me. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I actually had to reach out to one of my daughter's teachers because she had them do an assignment in school, and it
Oh
was
boy.
write a letter to a black woman, because black women, are the most unprotected, whatever,
Where
whatever.
does that come from, Shemeka? Like, I'm
Uh,
curious. Where does that come from?
First of all,
Finish telling your story, and then if you don't mind, can you explain to me where did that come from? But continue.
yeah. So, and so they had to write a letter. Now, mind you, this was a white teacher
Uh
given this
oh.
assignment, and it was during Black Lives Matter week. And
You
so,
got to be kidding me.
oh,
There's still a such thing as Black Lives Matter week, month, day.
yes, in the schools. Now, your school does have the option to participate or not, and her school had they had participated the previous year, but because once COVID hit and they were actually
Right.
having to be homeschooled or
Mm-hmm.
get their education at home or whatever, I was
Right.
able to see more of what was going on in class every single day. And
Okay.
so I'm like, wait a minute, write a letter to a black woman because they are the most unprotected. How would how to make them feel good? The teacher told them a story about how she donated to Trayvon Martin's mom, and she wanted to make her feel good. And I actually had to call the teacher and tell her, don't ever give my child an assignment that she has to get a grade for, pandering to black women, as because she's a black woman.
It's
Her
disgusting.
mama is a black woman. I am not oppressed because I'm a black woman, and I don't want that instilled into my child. I want
Exactly.
her to wake up and feel like
Yes.
if I do what I'm supposed to do as first a person,
Facts.
I'll be
Facts.
fine. My
Facts.
daughter ended up graduating high school with a 4.3. She didn't need to be sitting somewhere feeling sorry for herself because she was a black woman or black girl or whatever.
Exactly.
Like, don't ever do that. And I even went to the principal, and it was so nice. Last year, daughter has, not long graduated, but she's a junior in college. And
Okay.
he said, I had no idea that Black Lives Matter stood on dismantling the nuclear family until you came to me and told me why you had an issue with the
It's on the website.
assignment, with the Black Lives Matter week,
Yeah.
and Black Lives Matter organization in general. He said he didn't know, and this was a black principal, predominantly black school, and he didn't know. But I was grateful that he actually thanked me for
Right.
bringing that to his attention,
Oh, that's
because
beautiful. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
he just didn't know. And so where does it come from? Malcolm X has this thing where he's telling you to protect the black woman, and um but I think times were different. Um I do still think all women should be protected. That's the job of a man, to
Of
provide and
course.
protect, and
Yeah.
but I think we also have to hold women accountable.
There we go.
Um
There we go.
yeah, like, sometimes you're not protected because you're not in place. You're
Right.
not in place. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not being who you're supposed to be. I
Mm-hmm.
don't expect a man to put his life on the line when you going out shaking your behind in the street
Talk about
or
it. Talk about
twerking
it.
on a car, rolling down the
Yeah.
freeway. You out here acting like an orangutan. Who gonna protect that? Ain't
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
zookeepers. Ain't nobody got time to be trying to keep you in. We got to take some accountability as black
Right.
women, for that whole we're the most disrespected, unprotected. Nobody disrespects a black woman more than she disrespects herself.
That's a
I
fact.
firmly believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I look at the the Amanda Seals, the
Mm,
Fannie, what is Fannie Willis, the
mm.
the Beyonces, and it's to a point where I would tell black men, you know, when you look at certain women and you see that the people, and I'll also say this to women as well, but men, when you start to see that these women take after the characteristics and follow after these type, you need to distance yourself from these type of women because they're not these type of women. These are ratchet tanks. You can't compromise with them. They
Yeah,
have
that gets
already
you killed.
they will get you exactly. So
Yes.
these women, they have already drawn a line in the sand, and they're going to stand with Satan. I know I'm being harsh. I know that sounds harsh to a lot of people when I say things like that, but I just got to call it the way I see it. And the same thing with these men. I look at a lot of these. You mentioned how weak these men are, and I put most of the onus on the men because they have found a way to get new ways to pander to black women, and
Mm-hmm.
it's pathetic.
Oh
And you
God.
breed when you have weak men constantly pandering to women. How can you breed or cultivate a strong community? So when I see this type of when I see this type of rhetoric constantly spewed in the public square, it's quite disgusting. It's quite deplorable, and you can't really, like you just highlighted, as far as black women. I'm not trying to. I know I'm rambling. I'm not trying to be all over the place,
No, you
but
good.
what I'm saying is, like, you made a great point. A man is not going to sacrifice his life when you're out here showing your behind. When you're telling black men that you don't value. He's defined by a dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need him. So why
Right.
would a man protect you? Why would he give his life for you when you're constantly telling men these things, when you're constantly carrying the torch of first, second, third wave feminism? No
Right.
man wants to deal with that. So it's great to see women like yourself that push against this type of nonsense, and you're doing it being a woman, not not acquiescing to the LGBTQ crowd, not acquiescing to the left, and continue to stand firm, because we don't see a lot of people like yourself in these spaces, whether it's on the left or on the right, that's just saying it, just telling it like it is.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. I said this before. I'm really grateful. So my mom had me when she was 15. I'm a
Okay.
product of rape, but she had three brothers, one
Wow.
younger, two older. And of course, being raised in the house with, boys, and then I had my grandfather. Of course, my uncles had friends that would, sometimes be over to the house or they are hanging out with them. I'm very, very grateful that I never had an experience where I was one molested, which is the extreme, right? But I do know
Right.
women who are so bitter now because of things that happened to them in their childhood that they had no control over. I'm blessed in that aspect, but also too, they never called me out of my name, never mistreated me. I have to just give a shout out to the men in my life
Right.
that loved me, that did protect me. And so the admiration that I have for men was really birthed in my home because of the type of men that were around me. Now, they weren't perfect. My uncle, one of them suffered, he, was addicted to drugs, but he never hurt me, never harmed me. Whenever
Right.
I needed him, he was there in some form or fashion, even if he didn't have money. Like, I'm moving, he needs to lift the couch. He got me,
Okay.
I'm really grateful for that because a lot of women did not have that. And I just want to
Yeah.
shout them out and acknowledge the fact that the way I feel about men and the way that I think, a lot of that came from the home, which again is why it's so important that we push these traditional values, because what a lot of these kids need should have started in the home. And of course, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, but
Unfortunately.
we can start somewhere and try to tell them, hey, we see how it's going now. It's not looking so good. It's not working. Let's go back to when it was working,
Exactly.
because that's the best way. So yeah, I'm just really grateful for the my upbringing and just the love that I had for men. Um, and their humanness, yeah, they can make mistakes, but just still seeing the goodness in them, and feeling like, sometimes I feel like we cooked as a society.
Nah,
If I dig
I
real
get
deep,
it.
I have some hope.
Nah, I feel you. I feel you. Well, look, Shemeka, it has been a honor having you on this platform. I would love to have you back on. You brought something really different to the conservative space. Keep doing
Thank
what you're
you.
doing. Before we get out of here, where can people find you? Where can people find you? Not only as far as like what you're doing, as far as like your platform, but where can they find you at on social media and things of that nature?
On Twitter, I used to send people to my website, but now it's down because I'm trying to get it redone. But
Okay.
on Twitter, I'm Shemeka Michelle.
Okay.
Instagram, I'm the Shemeka Michelle. I think it's
The
the same.
Shamika Michelle.
Yeah, it's the same on Facebook. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm those three places, and then of course, Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm there. Google me.
Yeah.
Google
I
me.
gotta
That's
get
where you can
Jason
find
on.
me.
I gotta get I gotta find a way to get Jason on. So Shamika, please put in a word for me, for Jason. I would love to get him on. And one thing I love about Jason, I've seen him go, on different people's platform who's
Yeah.
not really. So I'm a huge Jason Whitlock supporter. I'm a huge Shamika Michelle fan, and we love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for taking the time out to be on the Making Conservatism Look Cool podcast. And I'm gonna let you go, and you have a good
Yeah,
night,
because I'm
Shamika.
like, I'm starting. I always blink a lot, but I'm starting to blink extra because I'm I'm getting sleepy, and I'm like,
It's
I
all
can
good.
barely look into the camera.
Hey, hey, I can't quit my day job, so I got work in the AM.
Yeah, I'm like,
It's all good. It's all good, Shamika. Well, look, thank you. You have a good night. I'm gonna let you go. We got to do this again.
thank you.
Good night, Shamika.
Good night.
All right.